That's the nicest welcome we've had before. Thank you so much.
Look,
They're very cute, aren't they?
They're beautiful. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, please.
We all love y'all's portray.
Oh,
Really
Thank
good.
you.
thank you.
So with that, what was the process for auditioning for the parts?
Oh, that's a good question.
You were up first, so I'll let you go first.
I think for Disney, it was about wanting to explore whether or not I could sing. I think really that was the major question mark. So I was asked to put together an audition tape, and I went away and I did, and then kind of did that classic thing of waiting on tender hooks to get the call, and to hear, to whether or not it was sort of up to standard, and thankfully it was. So I got offered the role, which was just very, very exciting, really.
And yes, for me, I put a song on tape for Bill Condon. I sang the Beast song from the Broadway musical, which we end up not using in the movie, but there it was, because the Beast doesn't sing in the animated film, of course. And yes, same thing. Fortunately, he liked it. Yeah.
What was it like seeing yourselves in full costume for the first time?
It was kind of amazing. I think that because Belle, it's a fairy tale, it's kind of, I play kind of an archetype, really. She's more of a symbol than the way that I got into character, and I sort of started to feel like I was understanding her really well was through her costume. So it was like working on putting together the boots that she wore, and she had kind of these slightly scruffy socks, and she had the bloomers underneath her skirt, which meant that she could swing her leg over a horse, and creating the kind of tool belt that she has on for when she's inventing things, and that will carry her books, and all these little details. She actually has a ring on this finger, which is actually one that I wear, which is one from my mum, and all these tiny things, I really felt like I was starting to get to know her. So her costume was really important for me, actually. It was like the way in.
You look stunning.
Thanks!
I didn't really have a costume. I did have costume. They made costumes for the Beast. There were real giant coats that he wore and this massive shredded cloak, but I never actually got to put it on. I spent the whole time as the Beast anyway in a 40-pound muscle suit on stilts, covered in grey lycra. So I looked pretty odd, but nothing like the Beast that you see in the movie.
Both Hermione, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Both Hermione and Belle are very strong characters. In which ways were you able to shape the character of Belle to help continue the empowerment of future generations that will be seeing this film, both young and impressionable?
That's a really good question. There was talk a little bit at the beginning of a wedding, perhaps at the end, and that had not been in the original. And I was sort of like, oh, me, sorry, can I just point out this isn't in the original? We need to stay faithful to the original. And I felt strongly about that. I felt very strongly that she needed to have a vocation to fill her time with. This was very important to me. So we kind of co-opted what was originally kind of crazy old Maurice's identity, and I was like, well, that's not the direction that Kevin's taking the role in. Could I co-opt that for Belle? And we had her design this washing machine that allows her to have more time to read and to teach. That was super important to me. I think also actually people ask me a lot, what's it like being a Disney princess? And I go, well, actually, Belle isn't a princess. She's actually one of the few Disney that's in, sort of in that line of young women who actually isn't a princess. She's an ordinary girl from an ordinary village, and I actually think that's very important about her. And she has no aspirations to be a princess. She has no aspirations to marry a prince. And so there was a line in the movie originally where Audra, the chest of drawers, says to me, oh, we'll make you a gown fit for a princess. And I was like, I asked Bill, I said, could I say, actually, I'm not a princess. And he was like, yeah, sure. So just like little things like that, where I just felt like I was protecting and defending Belle's sort of original DNA and just making sure that we stayed truthful and faithful to this very independent young woman.
And I thank you for that as a mother.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, your dance scenes were amazing. How long did it take you to prepare for that?
Wow, it was about 3 months
Mhm.
training
Oh,
for that
my
Beauty and
Yeah.
the Beast waltz, and I have 3 dancers in the film. You have 2, unless you count your walk through the village, I guess, which is kind of a
Kind of a
sort of
dance.
choreographed.
Sort of a dance.
But no, it was a lot of dance training for this, and particularly for that iconic waltz. And we first of all learnt it. Well, I first of all learnt it on the
It was
ground.
kind of a 4-step process. So we learned it apart.
Yes, with different partners.
We learned it together.
Then I
You
graduated
introduced
to
the
the
stilts.
stilts.
And
And then
then
we
we
hit the
graduated to the ballroom. Because that ballroom is so huge that actually kind of filling the space and really making it seem as if we were filling that room was a kind of challenge in itself. So it was
It's quite a
it was quite a process. Yeah.
Yeah, waltzing on stilts. Not something I ever thought
Now you know
I'd
what
be
it
able to
feels like to
say.
wear heels.
For I kind of have a 2-part question. How much of it was CGI and how much was actually you? And did you have any input, Emma, into like the dress of Belle, like how her costume was?
So,
You go first.
in answer to your first question, it's all me, kind of. So it was motion capture, puppeteering of the suit. I'm inside a giant muscle suit on stilts, so the beast body was me moving inside there. The facial capture was done separately, and every 2 weeks I'd go into this booth, and 10,000 UV dots would be sprayed on my face, and 27 little cameras would capture everything I've been doing for the past 2 weeks just with my face. So it was my face driving that beast's face, and they turn that information digitally into the beast's face and map it onto the body that I'd been working on the set. So in answer to your question, it's sort of lots of CGI, and also it is me driving it all. And it's an amazing new technology that's never been used this extensively before. It's very, very exciting.
So,
Dresses.
Yes, dresses. So yeah, I was very heavily involved in the dress. Trying to get the dress right was really difficult because we knew that the dress had to serve a number of different purposes and functions. So it needed to be of the period. So originally we actually started off with a very kind of like 17th century traditional dress. But then we realised that it didn't do that like really cute twirly thing that does the animation, where the dress like spins behind her. And we were like, damn, it has to do that, otherwise it's not right. So we were like, okay, back to the drawing board, it's got to twirl. All right, so it can't be quite, it's got to be 17th century, but the bottom's got to be different. So then we tried another version of it, which kind of did have that movement. It was lightness, so we made it out of chiffon. And then we were like, she's also got to ride a horse in it, and she's got to be able to kind of go into the third part of the movie, which is where she goes back to save her father. So it also kind of needs to feel like an action hero dress, which is why the front of the dress looks a bit like a coat of armour. It's like got gold flecks in it, and it kind of like, it had that kind of warrior element to it as well. We kind of created a warrior, modern 17th century twisty twirly dress hybrid. There
was a lot of toing and froing with that dress design, and during that extensive design period, Emma came over to my house in London for dinner, and we were talking about the dress and what the dress was going to look like. And my 5-year-old daughter at the time sort of overheard our conversation, and she scurried into the next room with a pen and paper, and came back about half an hour later with 5 different dress designs. Aww. And Emma was very, very sweet. She sat down with Willow and she looked through them all, and they chose which one they thought they should go with. Anyway, a few weeks later, Willow came on set and saw Emma in the finished dress, and she said, "Yep, that's the one." So in her mind, she designed that dress.
Yeah.
What would you say to girls that feel different and odd in their own way?
Oh, I got asked this question earlier, and I think what I remember being so torturous actually about school was that that is your whole world. It's like this microcosm. You don't, the people that are in your class, that's your entire universe. That is your planet. And if you don't fit with those, however many people are in your class, it's miserable. And I think what my mum really said to me was that, look, it might feel like the end of the world right now that you don't quite fit, but one day you might be really grateful for that. And it's very hard to see at the time, but it's, there's a big wide world out there with people who have diverse interests and perspectives and opinions, and you kind of have to just like go out there and find your tribe, find your kindred spirits, find the people that resonate with you and that you feel at home with. And it takes a bit of persistence, and it doesn't necessarily come overnight and really easily. But actually, when I look back on not feeling like I fitted in actually at school, I'm really grateful that I didn't, because I actually don't really particularly want to be like any of who were the cool girls in my class anymore, to be really like. And I'm glad that I was different. I'm glad that I was a bit odd and I didn't really fit in. So, obviously all of this is easy to say in retrospect, but anyway, I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
As a fan of the original movie, thank you for your performance. The movie is amazing. I have a question from one of my readers. They want to know what is the most exciting scene that you filmed from the original movie and how it felt when you did it.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to say the waltz again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was that was, I suppose, the most iconic scene that we were really looking to replicate. And the feeling of a waltz, I highly recommend you all go and try it. Take a partner, go and take a waltz lesson. It's an amazing feeling when you get it right. And there's something about the sort of swirling motion of two people doing that, especially in stilts, which is quite weird. But it was very satisfying to have completed that sequence and feel like we'd captured the magic of that original dance, I suppose.
Can you talk about your chemistry on and off camera? What you guys did to maybe make yourselves laugh or loosen up a little bit, or?
I think I made you laugh just by being in this monstrous muscle suit on stilts.
That's true. I mean, I think honestly the dancing was very bonding, because when you're this close away from somebody else's face and it's kind of awkward, and you're trying to, it feels very intimate and you don't really know that person. It kind of like forces you to break down a certain number of barriers that would be there without that. I think also Dan is a feminist in his own right. I actually found out on this tour, which I can't believe he never told me, but he was one of the first people to review Caitlin Moran's How to Be a Woman, which was one of the books that I chose for my feminist book club. He wrote a review of it for one of our English newspapers. And coming into the project, he was like so excited by the speech I'd given at the UN, and he wanted to make sure that we were collaborators in exploring the masculine and feminine energies that are in this movie, how to celebrate them both, how to serve them both, how to make sure that they interact in a way which is really dynamic and fun for people to watch. So I think all of those shared interests, books, our conversations about feminism, were just like, he was like a dream collaborator, really. So yeah.
Speaking
Thanks,
of
Em.
books,
Yes.
Bill Condon mentioned that you brought a stack of books with you to one of your first meetings, and you have.
Yes. I'm really curious what he's going to say. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And you have started your own book club recently.
Yes.
Which one book would you recommend to every young girl to read?
Every young girl to read. Give me like an age bracket, like
Up to teens.
Up to
Sort of
teens.
pre-teen to teen,
preteen to teen.
but
Like
more
9 to
towards
13
middle school,
kind of.
before high school.
Before high school.
Okay.
Okay. That's a really good question. I think that's actually something I've been trying to explore more recently. I mean, the Judy Blumes, Hello God, It's Me, Margaret, are fantastic. I think, for me, the biggest thing was, it had never occurred to me, which seems ridiculous now, it had never occurred to me how few female authors there were on my English literature curriculum. And I'm an English literature major. It had just become like part of the I don't know, it just never occurred to me. When I look back, I'm shocked by how few there were. And I guess I would say part of it is the content that's important, but I think another part of it is making educators and children themselves aware of, are we including women's voices in our curriculums? Are we celebrating female authors? Are we celebrating female artists? Is there any balance there? I think that's also half of the battle.
Have you read Herland?
Herland?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, I love this. Oh, I will go and find that. Thank you so much.
We have time for one last question right now.
Many of us have children that truly, this version of Beating the Beast is going to be the only one that they remember, that they grew up with. My daughter's 3 years old, so I know that when I say Beating the Beast, she's going to be referring to this particular movie. What is important for both of you, for girls and boys, young, to take away from this movie? Because it's a great, on both sides, there's such great messages for boys and girls to learn, which is what I loved about it.
There really are. I remember even from the animated film, it being a Disney film that was immediately loved by boys and girls. I actually have a great friend of mine who's now in his mid-30s, who grew up in the west of England, in the countryside, who, for him, Belle was his greatest hero, and he used to go into the fields of Somerset and sing "I Want Adventure in the Great Wide Somewhere," because there's something about the spirit of Belle that is to be championed in all of us. I think that curiosity, that imagination, that ability to see beneath the surface deep, but also to see beyond your immediate surroundings. She has tremendous vision in all ways, and I think that's something to be applauded.
Yeah.
I think as a child, I had a very hard time working out sometimes why people weren't kind to other people, and trying to kind of like understand, and I think what is so beautiful about Belle is that she's so non-judgmental. It's her ability to see beyond the surface of things, and to understand that kind of everyone has a story, and you don't always know what that story is, and to kind of look deeper into things before you make a judgment.
Right.
And so there's a kind of like a compassion and an empathy there, which I think is kind of a relief, because I don't think anyone is inherently evil. I think there's light and dark in everyone, and I think that she symbolizes that really well.